Hi there, John Moore here, and I am a shamanic teacher and a shamanic practitioner. I live in the state of Maine in the northeast of the United States. And today I want to talk to you about learning shamanism over Zoom or distance learning using other types of technology. Zoom is the most popular. So, of course, traditionally, because shamanism goes back to at least the Neolithic era, um, has been taught face to face. And coming up in shamanism, I have done my fair share of face to face learning. I did, you know, multiple years of programs that had residential components where I was actually staying in the same place with my teacher and other students in the programs and that sort of thing. And I've trained with my teacher one-on-one face-to-face, and I have taught many face-to-face classes. However, we are in the middle of a global pandemic and hopefully at the tail end of a global pandemic. And what has happened is a lot of people have gone and done the things that they would normally do face-to-face and done them online. And so, there's been a huge surge in interest in learning shamanism. And the question comes up, is this something I can learn online? Now, I personally have taught, I've taught a couple of classes online, and I do one-on-one mentoring with students, although I have, I'm very choosy about who I mentor because there are so many hours in a day to spend time one-on-one with people, and I want to make sure that that's a fantastic relationship for everybody involved, and that this is somebody who's very serious about learning and will get the most from having a teacher-student relationship with me. But obviously, I teach particularly one-on-one over Zoom, and I've taught classes over Zoom, and so I think it is effective. There is nothing that says you can't learn how to journey and do a lot of the things that you do in shamanism, that you have to be in the same room with somebody. There's not a huge compelling reason for that. There are advantages to being in the same room with a group of people who are journeying together, because your brain waves kind of synchronize, and you can sort of ride on the wave of journeying. There's also something to be said for being able to interact physically. There are certain practices that are easier to learn being in close proximity to people. But that being said, spirit is primarily formless. Because it is formless, it doesn't have mass, and time and space are directly related to mass. And so therefore, time and space aren't incredibly important, to doing work with other people. There's also, so I want to talk a little bit also about pre-recorded classes in shamanism. I'm a little bit on the fence about this. I think there are things that you can learn that can be pre-recorded. There are an awful lot of people teaching pre-recorded classes in shamanism out there. Some things require input and correction from a teacher. Can you learn karate from watching videos? Kind of, you can, but you might learn some techniques, and you might, whatever, but you don't have a teacher there to correct you, to answer your questions, all of those things. So, while I do plan to offer pre-recorded classes in the future, they won't be in areas that require that either require guidance along the way, or there will be methods for getting help and asking questions from me, so nobody will be left out in the dark. So an example of that would be something like soul retrieval. Like soul retrieval training, you really need somebody guiding you through that. That being said, you could go to a very large class. You could sign up for a class with 100 people in it, and the teacher certainly is not going to have time to answer everybody's questions or give people individual attention. So I don't like that situation either for certain types of training. So for intro training or even teacher training, I don't think having more than 15 or so, 15 to 20 students if you have helpers teaching with you, that sort of thing, kind of okay. But then you're bordering on people are not getting the help that they need when they need it. Mentorships are a little bit different than classes in that they're one-on-one. And I think there is real power in doing mentorship. I love doing them. I love working with students one-on-one because I can really, really tailor what I'm teaching and what the student is learning to their learning style, because we all learn differently, and B, if I'm talking about something, I can realize immediately if they're not getting it, and that's not their fault, that's my fault as a teacher. I need to change my approach to how I'm explaining something. I can ask them, okay, do you get this? How would you explain this back to me? And see if they really got something in depth that I can't do in, with a class of 20 people or a class of 25 people, just because the time constraints would take too long. And so I can compress the learning down in a one-on-one mentorship. I do it over Zoom all the time. People learn to journey effectively. There are a couple of in-person practices that you really need somebody in the room with you, but they're few and far between, and there are ways around that. So some of the advantages of doing mentorship or training over Zoom are that you can train with somebody, you can train with who you want. You can find a teacher that you really resonate with, that you have talked to, or you've seen videos of, or you have read a book by, or something like that. And if they're offering it, you can mentor with them or take a class with them online without flying halfway across the world. Sometimes it's less expensive. The teaching is the teaching, but factoring in residential fees if you have to stay somewhere. And I remember when I studied soul retrieval, my teacher was at a big retreat center, and the lodging was many times more expensive than the actual class, which the class was infinitely valuable and the lodging was the lodging, but had to do it. It was in the middle of January. I couldn't sleep out in the snow. So you can avoid some of those things. It can be a convenience thing where you don't have to travel. You might not have time to travel. With one-on-one mentorship, I'm super flexible with my students about how often we meet. We'll set a pace, usually every other week, because we'll do work together and a meeting, and then there'll be work for them to do and I want to give them time to do that, explore that, generate any questions they might have. And then we meet again, we address that, and then do more work, and then it keeps the momentum going. Whereas if we're meeting every week might be a little too frequent for some people. I've done that, but I find every other week is a good pace. But if that doesn't work for somebody, if they have work and family conflicts that get in the way, then potentially it could be once a month or once every 3 weeks or something like that. And schedules are a thing as well, where this week we meet on Wednesday, but next week we meet on Sunday because somebody's got something going on. And so there can be an amazing amount of flexibility. From a teacher's perspective, I can teach from anywhere that I can get, almost anywhere that I can get an internet signal. I'm not going to go to McDonald's and teach you from a booth in McDonald's, but I could be traveling. I could be in a hotel. I could be at somebody else's home. Most of the time I'm in my house because we're in the middle of a pandemic and I haven't done much traveling. But it offers me some benefits of flexibility as well. And if I'm teaching in my home, there's not a big transition. When I always say that shamanism is a form of spirituality that has a lot of baggage, and I actually mean literal baggage here, not there can be some figurative baggage as well, but literal baggage. Like when I go teach in person, there's a lot of stuff for me to haul to teach. Everything from drums and rattles to altar materials to handouts and class materials and all kinds of stuff. And I've filled my car full of stuff before to go travel to teach. So it offers some advantages, obviously, to teachers as well, to be able to teach over Zoom. I like it. I don't necessarily feel like I have to be in the same room when I'm mentoring somebody. Classes are a little bit different. I have taught classes online. They do present challenges because have to control question and answer time and all kinds of stuff. That's a lot easier in person. Like if I'm sitting in a circle with a group of students in person, I can look at somebody and they'll know I'm looking at them. Where over Zoom, how do you know if I'm looking at you? Because I'm looking at a spot in my screen. Anyway, that's just a little bit about learning shamanism over Zoom. I think you can. I think for beginner stuff, if you're going to take an intro class in shamanism, you could probably do that over Zoom. I think there are certain things that would be very hard to learn, without having another person in the room. Extraction, traditional power animal retrieval, some other types of healing, soul retrieval, certainly. There are, rituals that would be hard to do as well. But the basic journeying you could learn in an online class, or you could learn it in one-on-one mentoring. One-on-one mentoring is obviously an incredibly powerful way to learn, and I recommend it if you have the opportunity to do that. Just find somebody who's a good and qualified teacher to mentor you. Look for somebody who has had specialized, not just a practitioner, but somebody who's had specialized training, and avoid people who are trying to get you into it with classes, with an ongoing class that's long term, like 2 or 3 years. Particularly if there's a residential component, so not online. It's perfectly normal for a teacher to get you into a contract that says you have committed to this financially, because they have expenses. They frequently have to pay in advance for, they can't get out of the contract they have with a residential space. So if half the class drops out, a teacher could wind up being financially devastated. And so for long-term programs, there should be like a contract, but I'd be really wary about if, mentorships that weren't flexible, that tried to lock you into some sort of thing, because mentorship really, and I tell all the people who study with me, if at any point you decide this isn't working for you, you're not learning the right thing, well, first of all, tell me. I will try to adjust, but I will be more than happy to refer you to another teacher I know if this relationship isn't working out for either one of us. I'll help you find somebody else. I would rather do that than have somebody have a bad experience with me, or stop, or God forbid, stop studying shamanism because they weren't having a good experience mentoring with me. I've certainly referred people to other teachers for topics that I don't specialize in. Somebody wants to learn a specific thing and I don't do that, and so I'm not going to teach it. That wouldn't be right. So I would be wary of people who teach things that they don't do. It'd be a little hard to find out about that, I guess. But if I'm teaching soul retrieval, I should be a practitioner who does soul retrieval pretty regularly. It'd be really hard to teach it without having done it and know what it's like. In fact, it's impossible to teach it without having done it. I hope that's helpful. I hope if you're interested in shamanism that you will at least reach out to a teacher and have a conversation about what training might look like, whether that's in a class format or one-on-one mentorship. Think about schedule and costs and all of those things, even though in the grand scheme of spiritual development, time and money and all of those things might not seem important. Real world stuff can get in your way of learning and thriving in any sort of program. So make sure you get all of your stuff in alignment with your teacher. Make sure you are fully in alignment and have a great experience. But to answer the question, can you learn shamanism over Zoom? Absolutely, yes. I fully believe that you can. As long as you can interact with a teacher, as long as you can ask questions, as long as there's a way for you to get things corrected if something goes wrong, if you're having a problem, I believe that that's possible. I hope that is helpful. I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel and stay happy and healthy, and I will talk to you real soon.